Welcome to Wines and Wonders with Kirsten Fox. True stories with a side of wine. Looking for inspiration for your life and your wine glass? This is your podcast. Here's Kirsten.
So excited to have you here. Each season on Wines and Wonders, we explore a genre of true or historical stories with wines paired to them. This season, you're hearing stories about my own life and stories that I call beyond coincidence. These situations are ones that have happened to me over time that indicate that there's a higher power watching over and guiding me. As a survivor of a plane crash, 2 divorces, a child with cancer, my own cancer, I have had to pay attention to positive signals anywhere I could find them. And I've really gotten attuned to listening to a higher power and the universe to show me symbols and ways that I'm being supported. So it's very uplifting for me. Also, I'm an executive sommelier. I've written for Huffington Post. I've had a radio show on Cumulus Radio. I have a wine school. I've got, I can't even tell you how much I talk about wine. And I can't help but pair wines to things in my life. So in this podcast, you'll be hearing about both those uplifting, amazing stories that I'm calling this season Beyond Coincidence and a wine paired to each one. Today's story is called Flowers for Dannielle. As I've mentioned on other shows, I got smacked upside the head in September of 2017 when my husband of 14 years, who I loved, told me that he no longer wanted to be married and was going to move out. I was a mess and I really was trying to pull things together. I felt so alone, as many of you have felt going through separations and divorces like this. And it can be when you lose a loved one as well. You just feel so alone. At about the same time that this was going on, I was learning more about the power of your thoughts and about how if you think about bad things, you're inviting them into your life. And if you think about good things, that is what you'll attract. You might have heard about my dog, Roxy. She was a part of this part of my life, and she heard a lot of crying and sobbing as I tried to move myself through the sadness of losing my husband. Well, one of my friends named Dannielle was turning 40 right at this time, and I didn't want what was going on in my life to affect being happy for her and her fun at turning 40. So I called the hostess of the party she was the host putting on the main party, and I asked her what I could do to help. And she came back with, well, she said, why don't you get 5 small flower arrangements for the round tables that'll be out in the yard for the party? I said, well, great. I said, what is there a theme? Is there something I should match? And she said, really, there wasn't a theme, but that Dannielle's favorite colors were red, purple, and gold. So I committed to doing the centerpieces and I hung up. Now, at this time, money was ridiculously tight for me, as you can imagine. And so rather than go to a florist that I expected would have much more expensive flowers, I called our local grocery store, thinking I might be able to use the flowers that they have there that would be less expensive. I spoke to a woman and I said, hey, I'm looking for red, purple, and gold flowers. I want to do 5 centerpieces. And she said, let me check. And she looked around the floral department there and she came back on the phone and said, we really don't have any colors that match what you're looking for. We have red carnations, but nothing that's gold and purple. And I was just doing a preliminary call. So I said, okay, thank you. I'll come in the morning and we'll look together and let's see what we can find. So sure enough, next morning I go in and the lady and I look all over the department and there are no red, purple, and gold flowers except for the red carnations. And I just didn't want red carnations because this was a fancier party than I think of for red carnations. So finally, I needed the flowers. And so I just said, well, you know what? Let's go with those blue and yellow wildflowers over in that container over there. And I gestured across the way. And she looked at me and she said, well, just a second. We got a box of flowers in early this morning, and let me see. I haven't even opened it. Let's see what's in there. So she was gone for a little bit, and she came back out of the back storage room and she was dragging a big box with her. She pulled it out into the middle of the kind of the reception area there where you can stand, and she looked at me with really wide eyes and she said, "Do you see what I see?" And I looked in the box, and it was filled with red, purple, and gold flowers, and only red, purple, and gold flowers. I was stunned, as was this lady. I said, I can't believe it. Apparently I would like 5 small centerpieces, please, made of these red, gold, and purple flowers in this box. I went home and I took a photo of the flowers when they were sitting in my kitchen sink. I felt awash with amazement and surprise that I really didn't feel alone anymore. I literally felt like someone was listening and caring for me. I felt held. I'm showing a photo. Oh dear, did it put? Here's a photo on YouTube, and I'll also put it up on Instagram if you guys want to go see the red, purple, and gold flowers that were in that box. The value of that gift continues to support me to this day. Sometimes we all go through life when we feel alone and we feel isolated, especially as I was going through this divorce with my husband, particularly when I have to pick up a hammer or a drill. I feel really alone because that is not something I'm used to doing. But knowing the universe is there supporting me and holding me and sending me beautiful flowers that are red, purple, and gold when I need them, it surely keeps me uplifted. Maybe we're being supported by guardian angels or spirit or whatever you believe in, and we just have to tune in to see the support in whatever way it shows up. Things you need may be waiting for you, just like the flowers were waiting for me.
Stay tuned to hear what type of wine Kirsten will pair with this story right after this.
Today's podcast is brought to you by my company, which is an online wine education company called the Savvy Wine Shopper. So I'm sure you know now, I love wine and I love studying it and talking about it and digging into all these cool different wines from around the world. But I realize that many people don't want to go to the depths of wine study that I do. Maybe you just want to know what to pair with your chicken biryani that you're making, or what's going to go with your cocktail party food that might be an Italian theme, or what kind of gift should you buy for a boss or buy for a hostess gift. So the Savvy Wine Shopper offers short, interesting, pretty fun courses that will allow you to be a more confident wine shopper. So you can buy something other than the normal 4 wines you go to in the liquor store. Yes, I know, I'm looking at you. And so you'll be able to branch out in a more confident way and offer other wines that will be beautiful with the foods and with your friends. So, by the way, we have a tips and tricks email that we send out once a week, and it's just like super cool tips about how to serve wine or buy wine or drink wine, whatever. And you're welcome to sign up on our homepage at thesavvyWineShopper.com.
Next up, Kirsten's choice for a wine to open after the show.
I really appreciate you sticking with me today to hear about the red, purple, and gold flowers for Dannielle's 40th. What an absolutely amazing show of support I felt when that box was opened and the grocery store lady and I were looking in at only red, purple, and gold flowers. It was just, I felt so supported and so held, and that I was not alone. So let's talk about a wine that I think of when I tell this story. It comes in quite a few different names and forms, but whatever it is called, you will find it is one of the greatest and most food-friendly wines that you can serve. I'm talking about the triple whammy of Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvèdre, and it is often called a GSM, and you'll see that on labels, Grenache, Syrah, Mourvèdre, and it also will say GSM. And this wine, this blend was first really put on the map in the Southern Rhône region of France, particularly Côte de Rhône in that area. And it's such an interesting study, these blends. So this is a blend of three grapes. And when you look at many, many old world regions, they offer wines that are a blend of grapes. And this was extremely smart, still is smart, but this was extremely smart when there was no technology to help people grow their grapes, protect their grapes, this kind of thing. And it's still in the old world, there's very little technology that they use. But what would happen is, let's just say you were a farmer and you planted these three types of grapes. Each one would have its own timing in terms of flowering and maturation and harvest and that kind of thing. So if there was an odd hailstorm, an unusual hailstorm that came through and wiped out one whole type of grape because it was flowering at the time and the hailstones just dashed the flowers to the ground, the farmer would have, you would have another two grapes that probably would be able to be harvested, and you'd eventually end up with some wine, thank goodness. Then another reason that you would blend grapes, so not only is it insurance to make sure you had wine at the end of the year, but also blends tend to be very, very complex because each varietal is adding its cool personality to the wine. So let's look at the GSM wine because it's a blend of mostly three grapes. Grenache is a really thin-skinned grape. It grows in really hot climates and it gets super high in sugar. Therefore, it yields a super high alcohol content. So in a wine, it adds not only the signature flavors of cinnamon, spicy cinnamon, and some raspberry, but it also increases the viscosity of the wine because higher alcohol means the wine gets a little thicker. So you've got some kind of an interesting thing going on with the Grenache. Then we've got Syrah. This is a grape that's grown around the world. It's also known as Shiraz in some countries like South Africa and Australia. And it offers dark fruits like plum and blueberry, along with this interesting savory kind of smell and taste that has been compared to bacon fat. So kind of a really nice savory smell. And then it also comes with some black pepper kind of smell. So there you are. You've got your Grenache that's offering this raspberry and cinnamon and this higher alcohol. You've got the Syrah that brings the dark fruits in, and then this interesting savory and peppery smell. And then you add a little bit of Mourvèdre. Mourvèdre is also known in Spain as Monastrell, just so you know. That's the same grape. And Mourvèdre is one that is so big, you can kind of think about it like the steel beams in a building. I mean, this is the structure of the building. And so this wine is super tannic, which is that kind of grippy compound that you get from red wine. And it also brings in some of that, the structure of the dark fruits, but less on the dark fruits and more on the tannin. This is like that steel beam going in, and then you've got the Syrah and the Grenache kind of as the drywall and the wood going up around it, but you need the steel beam to hold it together. So obviously, this is a more interesting wine to drink if it's well made than just a simple Syrah or Mourvedre or Grenache. So that is our story of GSMs. And you will find these, they will be called in some parts of the world, in France, look for Côte de Rhône. Also, then in Spain, look at labels at Priorat. Priorat is making GSMs. South Australia is making GSMs. And then in the United States, Paso Robles in California and Washington State as well.
Next up, Kirsten's choice for a wine to open after the show.
Thanks again to the Savvy Wine Shopper for sponsoring the show for you today. Now, what bottle would I choose to pair with the incredible red, purple, and gold flower story that magically appeared for me? It would be a bottle of Perrin. Now, this is out of the Côte de Rhône. Perrin, spelled Perrin. Perrin family, Côte de Rhône village. And that looks to us in the United States like village. Côte de Rhône village or village. This wine will come in nationally at around $18 a bottle, and you get a preeminent wine family from France who is selecting their grapes from a small area within the Côte de Rhône, the village designations within the Côte de Rhône. They are hand-picking these grapes, and they are creating this, what is a GSM blend, for their Perrin Côte de Rhône Village wine. And at under $20, this is a steal. And this is a wine that you can keep around as a house. I would call it my house red. It's always here, and I know it will go with whatever I'm cooking. So that is it for today's show. I really appreciate you listening to me talk about the red, purple, and gold flowers for Dannielle that helped me feel so supported by the universe. And grab a bottle of GSM, a GSM blend from anywhere in the world, and enjoy those food-friendly grapes that work so well together.
Thank you for tuning in to Wines and Wonders with Kirsten Fox. True stories with a side of wine.